come to this place for magic. We come to the Bladtcast to laugh, to cry, occasionally be revolted, to pretend that you care. Because we need that, all of us. That indescribable feeling we get when the sound begins to prematurely dim, preserving that sacred runtime that is always measured in full minutes. And we go somewhere we've never been before, not just entertained, but somehow reborn, together. From musician interviews and unique movie reactions to stories about getting tossed off the Groove Cruise and rescued by the Canadian CIA. Dazzling conversation on tiny earbuds that repeatedly fall out, or a huge pair of Beats by Dre that never fit, but you spent $200 on them, so you wear them anyway. Sound we all can feel. Somehow, heartbreak feels good in a place like this. Our hosts feel like the best part of us, and stories feel perfect and powerful. If you feel like you're part of the episode, it's because here you are. The Bladtcast. We make podcasts better.
Welcome to the Bladtcast Oscar Night Recap Extravaganza, presided over by dual masters of ceremonies, the two Christians of the Bladtcast, Christian Toto of Hollywood and Toto, and our own Christian Bladt. And the winner is you! Get ready for your hosts, Christian Toto and Christian Bladt.
You know, the production at the beginning of the show was so long, I thought about having my mail forwarded here. Welcome to our annual Oscar post show. As always, I am Christian Bladt. And as always, he is Christian Toto of Hollywood and Toto. Christian, thank you so much for continuing the tradition. Lynn B couldn't be more excited. She's waving with two hearts, one for each of us. We don't have to fight over them. Thank you, Lynn B. The last live stream that I was doing that Lynn B walked into, she stumbled in at a very inappropriate moment. I promise you that we'll do our best to at least keep it PG-13 here. Christian, I think it was about a year ago, we were talking about how last year's Oscars telecast was surprisingly watchable. We had criticisms, but it was okay. It was good at times. And somehow I feel last night was kind of the same way. There's things we'll get into, but in general, and by the way, starting it at 4 p.m. Pacific, please never go back. It was like, and especially for people on the East Coast, I remember a point where it started at 8:30 Eastern time, so that they could get the red carpet in prime time. And I'm just relieved that we've kind of done away with putting so much important on the notion of prime time. Remember when World Series games always had to start at like 8:22 p.m., first pitch, I mean. So what did you think of the show on the whole, Christian?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me back. Second of all,
of course,
I met Lynn B in real life not too long ago, and she's a delight. And thirdly, this was I use the term loosely, enjoyable show.
Sure.
Akin to last year, I think a little better than last year. And they have clearly got the message that they should dial down the politics. They should dial up the nostalgia. And it just felt like a lighter production across the board. Listen, it's still almost 3.5 hours.
Yes.
No show should ever be that long. And we can quibble here and there, and we will. But I did not.
Yes, we're professional quibblers. Exactly.
Where would I be without the quibble? But, it's funny. My wife turned to me. She was watching it partly with me. And she said,
"Sure,
I think you're enjoying this." And I said, "Well, there's Batman. I mean, of course I am."
Yeah, right. Exactly. And, we'll talk about some of that stuff. Let's take a moment and just talk about the movies, and then we'll dive into the show. I think it's probably important to, other movies will definitely come up, but I think it's most important to focus on the films nominated for Best Picture. Now, obviously, we're not spoiling anything at this point. Oppenheimer was the big winner, but Christian, if you'd asked me 2 months ago who won the Academy Awards, I would tell you Oppenheimer. So again, not really a surprise. The surprise would have been literally any other film winning.
Right.
So,
Well, I may interrupt. There was
Okay.
a run where Poor Things won 3 in a row, almost in a row.
Yeah.
Old Oppenheimer, they, what is going on here? Is it the coronation not going to happen? But then it went back to the path we expected.
Right, exactly. So Oppenheimer, American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Past Lives, Poor Things, Zone of Interest. Christian, a lot of years when I talk to you about these, I have seen very few of them. I saw everything except for Past Lives, and that's mostly because the Writers Guild screener that my wife got expired too soon. If we'd had it a little bit longer, but I think it's on Showtime now. So I'm interested in seeing that. Of those 10 films, which ones, are there any that you hadn't seen?
Anatomy of a Fall, I'm embarrassed to say. I think I've seen the rest. And by the way, Past Lives is very good.
I've heard that.
Enjoyable, distinct. So definitely do check that out. And it's funny. It's one of those movies that was in the shuffle, but really didn't get name checked in any significant capacity.
Right. And I will also say you've probably heard that Anatomy of Fall is incredibly well done. And I would definitely agree. And I think that what I was telling people here's the thing. The people who were really upset about Barbie not getting nominated for Best Director, I didn't actually engage with. But, other people who I felt like talking to, I would say, listen, it's okay that you really liked the movie. I know it was really successful, but did you see Anatomy of a Fall and Zone of Interest? Because if you didn't, you cannot make the case that Greta Gerwig needs to be nominated. She could have been. It would have been fine. And by the way, nobody should really be upset that Margot Robbie wasn't nominated. She was good, but it wasn't a crime. Yeah, exactly. It's a very nice movie. And one of the real highlights of the telecast had to do with it. But if Christopher Nolan didn't win for Oppenheimer, I would have been surprised. But any one of these other movies, I could see winning any other year. You know what I mean? Like having seen all of them, and honestly, it would be surprised if Scorsese won, because usually doesn't actually happen. My thing, and I've talked a little bit about Oppenheimer. I think it was incredibly well made, and while it was long, it felt long in the way that this is the most significant instant in human history. And they spend an hour and a half on these committee hearings that happened after it. And some of them are very well acted. I fully expected and was glad to see Robert Downey Jr. win. I could not believe that he had never won before. In my mind, he won for Chaplin, but I guess no. He didn't win for Less Than Zero. He didn't win for Avengers. I don't know. But so I was very glad to see him. But and we don't have to spend too much time on Oppenheimer. But overall, what did you think of it?
I felt the craftsmanship was just, to me, through the roof. Everything about it was meticulous and beautifully rendered and authentic feeling. And the acting was just sublime. I mean, Cillian Murphy was, I wanted Paul Giamatti to win so very badly, but I can't deny that Cillian Murphy was the best actor last year. It was just a stunning performance. So everything about Oppenheimer was just, to me, off the charts. It's what movies should be. Nolan just knows how to make movies in a way that few people, if any, can really compare with. Having said all that, I felt cool toward it. It didn't emotionally engage me in a way that I like to be emotionally engaged by a film. So that's my caveat. But it's a spectacle. It's something to be dissected, to be savored, and it should be Best Picture because it did bridge the gap between, it's really an art house film in a way, but it's a blockbuster. And I think we often get Oscar winning films that were, well, great, but 8 people saw it, and that's
absolutely
good. But
I think that when you can get the art house style movie on the blockbuster budget with the huge box office, that's all the ingredients. For Muhammad checking in, he was, of course, the voice of the Bladtcast we heard at the beginning of the show. Thank you, Farad. Yes, Robert Downey Jr. lost for Tropic Thunder, but he was up against the posthumous nomination for Heath Ledger. No one had a chance. And if they had given it to Robert Downey Jr., how many years later would they have had to apologize, Christian? Because they wouldn't have made him give it back, but they would have been like, do you think you want to give it back? Because maybe you should. And also Farad with more great insight. Margot Robbie was going for Best Actress, Ryan Gosling went for Best Supporting Actor, which, but I mean, Margot Robbie's not a supporting actress in that film. She is the star of the film. She can't. Yes, the levels of competition were dramatically different. Ryan Gosling is very good in that movie, but I also was not surprised to see him not win. I think that, Oppenheimer is one of those movies where you see it and you go like, oh yeah, you kind of know. I was a little bit brought down because of the fact that I went to go see it with Mr. David Weiss, aka Salmon from the old Dennis Miller show, and he literally hates everything, and he hated that movie. He could not have hated it more. Yeah, I had issues with it. I thought it was very well made, and especially on the heels of Tenet, which we may have talked about. I was not a fan of Tenet. I don't care that it's the same forwards and backwards. It's bad both ways. So that's the way I felt about it.
And then I think Nolan recently said it's meant to be confusing. I'm like, really? I feel like a story. Yeah. I mean, listen, maybe art, a painting on a wall may have different interpretations, but I think when you're telling a story, it should be quasi-comprehensible. And I've never felt so, my brain never hurts so badly.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that was at a time when you could only see movies in California at the drive-in. So we saw it at the drive-in, and my wife wasn't tired when we got there, but she later said she had to take a nap in the middle because her brain hurt from trying to follow it. So I don't blame her. And I was like, you know what? It wouldn't have been any less confusing if you'd stayed awake. So it's fine. But this is it's a great achievement. I think the choice in, I don't know. I mean, and it's like, oh, you need to see it in IMAX. I'm like, well, no, you need to see about 60 seconds of it in IMAX. I saw it in standard projection, and I'm like, oh man, that would have looked cool in IMAX. But I don't think Robert Downey Jr.'s sweaty forehead is something I need to see in IMAX. Probably looks great. But so those accolades for the film were not surprising. I think that there was the outside chance, that something else could have won, but I don't know. I just never got that feeling as this got closer. And I forgot that there was the best foreign film category. So everyone was able to give that to Zone of Interest. So they didn't feel bad about not giving a vote to the Holocaust movie, which it's fascinating because it's the Holocaust movie without the Holocaust, and I was trying to explain to my wife why the sound design won, because I'm like, if you take the sound design out, you don't really know. It's the constant like assault rifles, the screaming, the yelling, everything in the background throughout the entire film. Yeah. I was impressed by that. I almost didn't go see it, but my buddy Will Sterling of the Bladtcast, who I think I'm going to talk more about some of these movies in the next couple of days, he told me after he saw it, he's just like, I'm just going to say it's not what you think. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to take that. And I'm glad I saw it. I don't know what you thought of Zone of Interest, and then we'll dive into the telecast, Christian.
I thought it was one of the most, I know it's based on a book. Is it Martin Amis, I believe?
Yes.
It's one of the most compelling, amazing concepts of a film that to depict evil that I could possibly grasp. I mean, it's so brilliant on that level. But as a movie, once you get through, this is an ordinary family and the sound and the chilling nature of it, I just didn't think there was a story to really support it. And I'm in the minority. So
no. Yeah. I mean, and I think a lot of it is just sort of the family that just kind of goes about their lives despite the horror. There's that phrase, not in my backyard. Well, it's literally in their backyard, and they still don't care. They get an opportunity to move to another city, and they're like, no, we want to stay here next to Auschwitz. And I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
This is our home. Barry Wurst, who's a critic for my website, he, in his review, and it was a rave review, he said he compared the movie to an art installation. And I'm like, yeah, in a way that is. It's more of an art installation than a movie because it doesn't really have a significant plot, but it's sort of what it's built, what it evokes is so powerful.
Yeah, no. I definitely agree. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the telecast in and of itself. In general, we were talking about how we were fairly happy with it. The monologue had a couple of duds, but it's the very it's what that room likes. He didn't
Mhm.
Joe Coy it. We talked about on the show I do, Who Are These Broadcasters? We talked about Joe Coy's jokes weren't bad, but that room didn't feel like he got to make those jokes to them. Kimmel, they've known long enough, but then he didn't even really go after them. It was very gentle ribbing. It was nothing compared to what like a Ricky Gervais has done.
Yeah, I mean, I called it Ricky Gervais very, very light, in part
Yeah,
because
sure.
he did. I mean, listen, bringing up Robert Downey Jr.'s drug past now,
Yeah,
it was really like, first of all, the others have done that, I believe, at the other award
I think
shows.
so. Yeah, I
Second
think
of
you're
all,
right.
I mean, his comeback story is amazing. That's a part of his life that's been over for quite some time. He's so talented. It just seemed, first of all, it wasn't very funny. And second of all, why now? Why this? I mean, if you don't have if you can't crush that joke, you don't tell that joke. And good for Robert Downey Jr. When he pointed to his nose, he said, "Was it on the nose, or maybe he was like doing a drug reference?" It was, at least he was rolling with the punches. He was
Yeah.
a good sport about it. But listen, I'm not a snowflake. I don't care about. You can tell tough jokes. You can go the full Ricky Gervais. But when you try to thread the needle and it's not funny and it's an old reference. My God, we mentioned Joe Coy, and part of his issue was he didn't have a lot of time to prepare for the gig for the Golden
Correct, yes.
Globes. And he can't help that. Kimmel and company had all the time in the world. And that's one of your go-to bits. And then like making fun of like De Niro's girlfriend or the age. And I don't know, it just seemed a little cheap shotty to me in a way that was not hilarious. And
yeah, no, and but what you said when we started, that was true. There was one political joke in the monologue, which honestly is not what I expected. I figured it's a presidential election year. The way that these have gone in the past, it was probably going to be a lot of that. And look, maybe especially if like Stephen Colbert was hosting, but there, if Jon Stewart, I'm thinking of people who've actually hosted before. That Jon Stewart was hosting, probably, but. I think it was like, all right, it's fine, whatever. You insulted Katie Britt. Saturday Night Live spent plenty of time doing that on Saturday. So it's fine. That's literally. I think there would have been no more political content the rest of the night because I'm giving him credit for not talking about former President Trump. But of course, Christian, the person that couldn't stand for that was former President Trump. Who I had to say that, like, yeah, it's worth slowing down the awards because you were called out. And I was going to show the tweet, and then I'm like, let me just play the clip of Jimmy Kimmel reading the tweet from former President Trump. And I'll come up.
Got a review, and has there ever been a worse host than Jimmy Kimmel at the Oscars? His opening was that of a less than average person trying too hard to be something which he is not and never can be. Get rid of Kimmel and perhaps replace him with another washed up but cheap ABC talent, George Slopanopoulos. He would make everybody on stage look bigger, stronger, and more glamorous. Blah, blah, blah. Make America great again. Okay, now. See if you can guess which former president just posted that on Street. Anyone? No? Well, thank you, President Trump. Thank you for watching. I'm surprised you're still. Isn't it past your jail time?
And not so much, look, the politics behind that, that's a joke that is going to kill in the room you're in. And he did not have the 5 months to prepare for it. So I thought that was, that's a good jab. Look, I mean, Donald Trump is someone who, if you follow the narrative, he may have only run for president because he got made fun of at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I believe that had a lot to do with it, and I think it was Seth Meyers, unless I'm mistaken, who he's also
I think it was Seth, yeah.
Yeah. And Dominicus Saxon checking in and saying, "Oh man, did I miss the Grammys again? Isn't the tie too big for that suit?" Yeah, I don't know. But so look, and for that to be the only other, I'm like, all right, well, he didn't just say the Oscars are boring. He name checks Jimmy Kimmel. Look, I've tipped my hat to some of former President Trump's nicknames. Slopanopoulos is not his best one, but it's not the worst. Little Marco's probably still the best, but anyway, low energy Jeb. Anyway, so, but really, and the speeches, look, when the Ukrainian director won for a film about the Ukraine war, yeah, that moment should be political. He should definitely get the chance to make the point that he wants to.
Yep.
And whether people watching at home agree with him or not, I think he earned the right, considering and again, I didn't see that film, but you could tell what it was about. So that's a moment where it comes in. A lot of these award shows, you feel like they've strong-armed something in that is like, okay, I guess we're fighting on this. Okay. Frances McDormand, I think last year did that, and it's fine, but you're right. This was largely a celebration of movies. And while it didn't always work, I liked we're going to have a few past winners talk about each of the nominees. I love the idea, some of them, it was a little bit clunkier than others. I liked when they actually seemed to know each other. I thought I enjoyed that. What did you think about that aspect of the actual show, Christian?
I like movie stars on the movie star stage at the Oscars. I feel like in the last few years, we've had a lot of pandering to the young people, like, oh, here's pop star, blah, blah, blah. And here's TV. Like, no, you're out. This is not your night. I want a Harrison Ford. I want Morgan Freeman. I want, the greats. And so to me, that scratched that itch. I thought it was good. I mean, most of the tributes were right on. So I had no problem with that. I like that they seem to pair two similar awards together. So rather than clearing out, coming back, clearing out, coming back, they'd have the same two presenters announce, best sound design, the best song, whatever the combination was. That seemed to make it microscopically shorter, and that was smart too. So I have no problem with those changes.
Yeah.
And when it started out, I forget who was on stage. Oh, it might have been Melissa McCarthy, and I forget who her partner was.
Octavia Spencer. Interestingly, I have a clip of that. Would you like to see it?
Absolutely.
I pulled that clip for a reason. So why don't we look at it?
Oh, I'm curious about your reason.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to have the same reason why I would have pulled this.
Or maintains its individual characteristics.
It's kind of like us, right? I mean, we do our own things. We also do our things together. We're like the Chippendale of showbiz, right?
Chippendale.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see us as the lycra pant pelvic thrust types.
Well, speak for yourself, but what are you talking about? I said Chippendale.
You said Chippendales.
No, I'm saying Chippendale. Chip in, comma, Dale, and you're saying Chippendales.
Oh, because I thought you were saying Chippendales. Chippendales.
Well, usually I am saying Chippendales, but not now, because that would be weird.
Yeah. Why don't we just read what the brilliant writers wrote for us?
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Why don't you read what they wrote? And our buddy Farad chimed in. Nothing like doing improv live at the Oscars. The reason I highlighted that clip is because of just how bad it was, how it didn't go anywhere, and it's not funny to begin with. The Chippendale versus Chippendales. Cami Egan says the joke they gave them was so awkward or not executed well. Cami Egan, I would say they probably hatched that together. If I had to guess, but maybe I'm wrong. But yeah. Anyway, so what was your point about that, Christian?
First of all, Oprah.
Oh, yeah.
It's sort of the spiritual cousin to that awful moment. And also, that was early in the show. And I think I said on Twitter or my wife, I had to this is like the night of the year for the Oscars. You can't write a better bit than that. Like, oh my gosh, that is so bad, so forced. So those are two talented performers. They can knock anything out of the park. But I have to say, as the night wore on, I was more often than not charmed by the presenters. Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling were great. Catherine O'Hara, and she was maybe Michael Keaton, was she with?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, they were funny and self-deprecating. I mean, so it's the Oscars. It's you've got all year. You've got to knock these out of the park. You've got the most talented people on earth who are able to knock these out of the park, and you come up with Chippendales. I'm like, oh my gosh. So it did get better from there, but that's an example of bad award show, period. And I have to say, you just played it. It was torturous to go through that again. torturous.
It was a little bit longer than that too, but there was very little meat on that bone, but I did cut out what was there. There were a lot of fun moments that even the fun moments at times probably also felt like they went on for too long. But I think one that a lot of people were talking about was this interaction between we had Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito on stage. Obviously, it was a Twins reunion, and they went a different way. And they said, "Yeah, we both tried to kill Batman." And I like when people are in on the joke. You know, there's the cutaway years ago of Tom Hanks. By the way, people talked to Steven Spielberg a number of times in the audience last night, and he was always up to the task, even when it wasn't particular. You know, I think Kate McKinnon said, "Who have I been sending those tasteful nudes to?" He pointed at himself. You know, it was. I think that he seems to, and he's been at this a long time, so he doesn't have to be having fun there. But I thought he did. But let's just take a look at the moment, because for our visual audience, if you haven't seen this, it is fun who they cut to in the audience.
He's here.
I hate him.
There he is. He's right here.
There's Batman. Well, Keaton is just stone cold sober staring at him.
You
Son of a
you
bitch.
are a real beak breaker.
And he gestures for them to come take him on.
I'm going to see you after the governor's ball.
You better.
I don't know. I like that. I thought that was funny. You know, that was one of those.
It's funnier the second time for me. Or here's the thing. You think, okay, it's a Twins reunion. They're going to do some shtick. Don't we look alike? That kind of thing.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
they pivot to something even better and funnier. And they both both nailed it. I mean, between Keaton with the stare and Schwarzenegger going, "You son of a bitch." I mean, it's really
that was definitely that was great. Yeah.
And then I thought they were going to pivot to Batman and Robin as a horrible movie. I thought that was the obvious joke, but they didn't even go there. They went in a different, you know.
Yeah, that was all right. I mean, I agree with you, and you know, we didn't need anybody. You know, we didn't need the comic book guy from The Simpsons to point out that Schwarzenegger actually faced Clooney as Batman, not It's all right.
That's
Clooney,
right.
Clooney. Yeah, if Clooney was there, they probably would have sat them next to each other. But that's all right.
Yeah.
I look, we're able to enjoy things like that, and I think that the thing that most people are talking about is the bit with John Cena, which I thought was very well done. It was funny. It was well executed. You know, they referenced the streaker that came on, and I think it was 1974 when David Niven was getting the Oscar. 70s were a wild time, kids. You don't even understand. People were streaking everywhere. That was the thing. You know, just run onto the field naked, run onto the Oscars naked. And I'm just going to show a little of it. This is kind of like the middle.
I changed my mind. I don't want to do the streaker bit anymore.
What do you mean you don't want to do the streaker bit anymore? We're doing it.
I just don't feel right about it, man. It's an elegant event. You know, honestly, you should feel shame right now for suggesting such a tasteless idea.
It's supposed to be funny.
The male body is not a joke.
Mine is.
No, it's not.
You wrestle naked. Why not?
Dude, I don't wrestle naked. I wrestle in jorts.
Jorts are worse than naked. Come on. You really not gonna do this? Fine, just give out the award then. God, the worst.
For our audio audience who's just holding the envelope over the danger zone, as we say in the television business. And Kemme Egan quite enjoyed that bit. Lynn B also found it to be hilarious. I thought it was very good. And there's a video that you can see of when they go to the package, that poor choice of words, the video that they had of the nominees, you see them, how quickly they put like that curtain on him, and Jimmy Kimmel's actually helping to get, because they only have like, I don't know, under a minute. So look, it's funny. It's fun. Cena is incredibly funny. I'm not a wrestling fan, but I loved his turn as Peacemaker in the Justice League and the Peacemaker TV series on HBO Max. It's just called Max now. I thought they got the perfect guy to do it. And I'm sure the ladies at home appreciated that they didn't ask, Seth Rogen or Jack Black to do it, because we've seen that. Yeah. I know Will Ferrell is probably like, "Hey, My phone didn't ring. What happened? Well, Cena might be in a little bit better shape, but yeah. So look, they had fun, and I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but do you know the conspiracy theory about that bit, Christian? You
No.
might see some of the same accounts I do. It's the idea that the Illuminati was humiliating John Cena. That was his comeuppance for insulting China a few years ago. And I'm just like, okay, if this wasn't somebody who didn't perform half naked most of the time and didn't look like that, but it's like, if I'm John Cena, I'm having trouble putting clothes on ever.
Yeah, I would never wear clothes if I look that good. A couple notes. First of all, it's not John Cena, it's Ricky Stanicki. So just a major correction there, obviously.
Right.
And also, do you pronounce it jorts?
Well, those are the shorts that are the cutoff, I guess.
Okay, so that's a real thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They're shorts. I don't know. They're combination. Because I remember jams, but I guess that I know jorts are a thing. I believe that women wear them, so I think that might be what the joke was. Dominica Saxon, note to self: start doing sit-ups. And Farad Muhammad's the line is costumes are very important. That payoff line is good. I just want to. It's a largely visual bit, so I want to respect our audio audience. And,
well, I mean, listen, John Cena is a legitimately funny fellow. I mentioned Ricky Stanicki as a joke. That's his new movie, and that's his character. He owns the movie. He steals the movie. He's great in the movie. So, this whole thing, well, he's a wrestler. He's a big guy, whatever. He has legitimate comic chops. I think he's getting better. And I only hope that Hollywood has enough good material to give him because he's a very funny figure. And the fact that he's so big and muscular and yet is so adept at humor, a little bit like Schwarzenegger back in the day. It's a nice combination.
Yeah, and I think he's very talented at what he does, but this is the way he's going to get it, onto the Oscar stage, is doing bits with Kimmel. So yeah, I mean, I think that that was fun. And by the way, David Alan Grier was the announcer, and he did a great job. But when we saw him on camera, it's been a minute since I've seen David Alan Grier. I think he was bald, but with a Santa Claus beard, and I'm like, all right. I mean, it's a look, but he does have a good voice for that. It's not something. He's not somebody that I would have thought of, but I think he did a good job with that.
There are certain performers who are insanely talented who have never really been fully exploited, and I think David Alan Grier is one of them. And I know his name so well, but I never know how to pronounce it. Is it Alan Tudyk?
I think it's Alan Tudyk. Yeah.
Right. He is just ridiculous. I'm watching Resident Alien right now. I'm like 2 years behind, but he's just so talented. I mean, any other actor in that role, it's kind of a meh, but he's got the voice working. He's a great physical comedian. He's a bit of a chameleon. Certain actors, I think Hollywood has done them wrong. Because I mean, David Alan Grier is legitimately hilarious. He's got skill. He's got range. He can do drama. He can do anything. But I would love to see him in a really big body comedy where it really taps all his talents, because he's great.
Yeah, it's true. You don't really you don't see him nearly as much. And yes, Farad, who is of course the voice of the Bladtcast, is giving the nod to someone who has great pipes as well. So glad that Dag, as they call him, got the VO gig. Yes, much appreciated. So one of the things that I thought was a good point was when the writer for American Fiction, I guess, wrote the book and adapted it, and he also directed it.
I don't think
maybe I'm wrong. No, he's okay. So the screenwriter who also directed it, he made a point that instead of making a $200 million movie, why don't you make 10 $2 million movies? And then he sort of broke it down more and started trying to do advanced math, which is not my strong suit either. But it's not a bad point. And it's like, look, you still make your $200 million movies, but maybe, you push one of them to next year. And then it's sort of like, let's dole it out to, because I think that American Fiction was good. I thought it was a very interesting idea. I do want to ask your thoughts on it. I'm not surprised that it didn't win Best Picture. But what did you think of American Fiction?
I thought it was two movies. I thought it was a searing satire that was very funny, very sharp, very on point. And then a mediocre family drama. And he fused them together in a way I felt was awkward. And I think that maybe the point of it is that you don't see typical upper middle class Black families enough on the screen. And I get that, but I don't need to spend half a movie to make that point. So that was my thought. I mean, I just think when it was on, I thought it was just terrific. And it is sort of poking the bear of the literary left. And I think the fact that it's been so well received, I think indicates a little bit of frustration among people with this cultural trend right now, which it does poke fun of quite well. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, no. I think that the book world being a metaphor for the film world, and then bringing the film world into it, and it getting Adam Brody from the OC as the film director. It's a similar sort of role he had in the great Jason Reitman, Thank You for Smoking, where he's the assistant, but he's basically sort of the same guy. And I reference that because, of course, it is that character who said, "What's up, Hiroshi?" which is what Dennis Miller used to say to start every radio show from Thank You for Smoking. But and I think that it's another one of those where you could see Jeffrey Wright winning another year, but Cillian Murphy certainly was the lock for that. And that was one of those ones where like, well, we really like this movie, but we're going to give it an adapted screenplay because that's what it's there for. I think that I agree. Also, I really liked Paul Giamatti's performance. I thought that he was great in that, in The Holdovers. But the one that I realized I didn't see, because I guess it's a Netflix movie, Rustin, Coleman Domingo. So I had never seen that, but I did a whole show about Maestro, which, I mean, Bradley Cooper spent 6 years on that movie, and what does he have to show for it? Well, and supposedly he learned how to play the piano, and then like people who are really in that world thought that he didn't actually play the piano that well. So I don't know that. It was a fine movie, but it definitely felt like he was trying too hard. Sometimes the Oscar bait can be a little too baity, if that makes sense.
That's what some people said. I don't disagree. I was back and forth in Maestro. I think certain sequences are fantastic.
I agree.
I mean, blown away. Oh my gosh, he's such a good director. The fact that he envisioned this, he choreographed it, he brought this to the screen. But then other elements I just thought were weak. But yeah, it makes me a little angry at myself for even thinking it's too Oscar baity, because it's such a he disappears into the role kind of performance. And I love that. And it was so meticulously crafted. He's a great actor. And
I agree.
I don't know. Is that a sign that we're too cynical? I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I almost feel like we're over analyzing it. Why not just say, oh my gosh, he disappears in the role. He ages over screen. He captures the character. I don't know. I'm torn.
Yeah, I mean, I think he did really pour everything into that. I agree with that. Yeah, and it's there's interesting things that they do that sometimes where the scenes transition in a way where he's like walking to the next thing, and you're like, wait, does he live in the top of the concert hall? Oh no, he does. Oh, okay, I get it. Took me a second. The first couple times they did it. But, a movie that starts in black and white and ends up in color, that can be a little hokey, but I thought that this handled it really well. And look, that movie's on Netflix, so literally everybody can see it. You can see most of these movies now. I saw The Holdovers on Peacock, so you just have to Google, where can I watch all of these movies? Some of them you have to pay for, but a lot of them are probably on a streaming service that you already have.
I'm not getting money for this. I've been talking about the site justwatch.com. It's pretty dang comprehensive. It'll basically say you can watch it here for free, you can watch it here and pay, or it's not available at all. By the way, The Sure Thing, a beloved movie of mine, is not available anywhere. That's a crime, but I digress. But justwatch.com is a really cool site.
No, that sounds great. It's actually, it's one of those things that it sounds exactly like, oh, I wish there was one of those. And apparently Just Watch is that. When they were doing the actor presentations, I remember I took this note while I was watching that Tim Robbins talking about, saying that De Niro gave an Oscar winning performance. I mean, worthy. De Niro always looks uncomfortable, but he's like extra uncomfortable then. It wasn't worth pulling it because it's just a look on his face.
Yeah.
But I thought that was funny. John Mulaney had a really good thing about Field of Dreams, which I thought was really funny. He also name checked. Well, he didn't actually name check, but he also made a joke about one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
We wouldn't have been able to hear such classic lines as "You're gonna need a bigger boat. I'll have what she's having." And he was in the Amazon with my mother when she was researching spiders just before she died.
Did you have to? Did you make yourself sit through Madam Web, Christian?
Did that line was the best line of the night. Yes, it was inside baseball, but where are they playing this gig? Inside baseball.
Yeah.
And I do think in a very short time that Madam Web will transform from a dud and an absolute disastrous movie into a Troll 2 like endeavor.
Oh yeah,
Really
I was telling people that legitimately it's better. It's worse than Morbius because Morbius is a very bad movie.
Much worse. Much worse.
But Jared Leto is an interesting, engaging performer, and he makes choices, and you can look at it. And I love Matt Smith. There's things to look at. This is just it was a little harsh, but when I was speaking to someone, I accidentally stumbled into the phrase that I'm very proud of. Looking up at the screen and seeing Dakota Johnson is like watching a bag of wet laundry, and she's not good in the film. And there was another reference to it earlier in the film, but I thought that John Mulaney actually citing a line from it. I thought was very nice.
This is the inside in that you need to see the movie to get the joke, but her superpower in the movie is driving a car into the bad guy. That's literally it. Never mind the future and the past and her psychic ability. Her superpower is driving a car, no matter where the villain is and no matter where the car is, into it. And the second time it happened, I was laughing hysterically at the theater. I mean, that was just...
Yeah. Also very funny that when Sydney Sweeney hosted SNL, she's like, you might know me from Euphoria or whatever that rom-com she was, but you definitely didn't see me in Madam Web, which, when the people in the movie start having fun with it, I think that's nice. Another thing I loved the winners for Godzilla -1 for effect because they brought the Godzilla with them because without him, there is no movie. I thought that was an interesting film, Godzilla -1, because to me it was like, oh, this is a war movie and about the perils and the damages of war. And then it happens to be on the backdrop of, 10 minutes of Godzilla. And I wasn't expecting that. I thought it was very well made. I thought it was interesting. I was like, this is almost like if somebody took an early draft of Christopher Nolan's 1917, and they were like, hey, let's put a giant lizard in the middle of it, and then the rest of the movie's kind of the same, and Farad points out the G1 team wore Godzilla themed shoes. What did you think of that moment, and did you see Godzilla -1?
I loved it, and I watched it after everyone was saying how good it was, so I was ready to kind of watch it like that. It's a wonderful film. And, I grew up on Godzilla films. I was obsessed by Godzilla films. And a couple of years ago, I watched one of my favorites, Destroy All Monsters. And I thought, what was wrong with me as a child? Because this is unwatchable. This is just garbage. I can't. So, I mean, it literally took like 70 years to make a good Godzilla movie.
They finally made a good one. Yeah. It's interesting because I remember, we're about the same age. When I was a kid, I loved this Japanese show called Voltron. And when I first had Netflix, they had this like crossover movie with like the lion Voltron and the vehicle Voltron. And I'd never seen it as a kid. I somehow missed it. I was so excited. I sat down 2 minutes in. I'm like, I used to watch this horse shit. I could not watch it. It was so bad. And boy, that's disappointing,
I will say one thing about Godzilla, which I think is accurate, and it means the most to me personally, is that I think they used the only thing that stood the test of time with Destroy All Monsters, the Godzilla movie, was the music. It was great then, and I think they put elements of that music into the new movie, Godzilla -1. I mean, I was watching that movie. I was transported by the music. I mean, everything else in the movie is very good. The effects, the story, everything is great. But Oh, that music. And they played a little bit of it when they
Yeah.
did the clip on the Oscar night. But boy, it's just like that lasted, man. They nailed that. Everything else is a disaster.
Lynn B on Christian's recommendation. I don't know which one of us, but we both would have recommended it. I went to see my first Godzilla, 2 thumbs up. Yeah. And by the way, before Godzilla -1, there's of course a trailer for Godzilla Kong 2 or whatever that movie's called. Now that looks like I might want to stay home and watch the Voltron crossover instead, because I'm just like, oh no. I don't think I'm up for that. People were very critical of the in memoriam sequence. And I posted this on somebody's Facebook this morning, and then I'm like, oh, I'm going to cut and paste that and put that into my notes, because I think I made a good point. Everything that happens in that room is for the people in that room. So what it looked like for them is what mattered. We should consider ourselves lucky that they let us push our grubby little faces against the window and look in like street urchins from a Dickens novel. And, to some extent, they're not wrong. But so, yeah, I think that the choices were with the directing of it. I think that the music, the performers, that was all fine. It was at times very hard to read who had passed away. Right, Christian?
Well, here's the thing. Every year they leave out beloved actors. And this year, I didn't realize at the time, they left out, there's more, but Treat Williams and Lance Reddick.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry. You cannot have this segment when you leave out actors like that. And they do it every year. So either get your facts straight. Again, you've got a lot of time to prepare for this gig, or just don't do it. Can we drop this?
Yeah.
I mean, it's insulting. It really is. And I find that that's like the nerd in me that I get upset by that. But like, how hard is it to just, who died in 2023? And then you pop up on the screen and go, okay, Treat Williams was a pretty big star. Lance Reddick died way too soon. There's more too. Those are the ones that really jumped out at me. So how do they mess it up every year?
Every year they find a different way to mess it up. Cam Hagan says the dancing sequence during the memorial was a distraction and the cameras didn't close up on the names, which was a bummer.
Yep. Absolutely true.
Farad Muhammad said the screen with a whole bunch of names felt like,
yes.
And the rest here in memoriam aisle. Yeah. The early seasons of Gilligan's Island, where it was like, and the rest. All you have to do is say the professor and Marianne. It's not that hard, but instead you just said, and the rest. Emma Stone had, it wasn't a problem with the FCC, but had a wardrobe malfunction of a different kind. She said that her dress is broken. And I think that I don't know that much about her, but whenever I see her talk, I always feel like somehow she seems like she's still largely a regular person. She grew up in Phoenix, so she's not like or somewhere in Arizona. She's not a showbiz kid. And I think that I enjoyed Poor Things for the most part, but what I will say is I was not prepared for just how much Emma Stone I was going to see in that movie. I understood there was nudity in it, but it's almost like, why don't you just do a quick highlight of the amount of times she had clothes on, because it wasn't a lot. I thought it was an interesting movie visually. It won some of that stuff, which I think it should have. It had such a unique style. I thought it was a good performance. It was an odd performance, but it's an odd concept. It's an odd character. Willem Dafoe as essentially a monster I thought was fun in it. Mark Ruffalo seemed to be having fun. And what did you think of Poor Things?
I thought it was very funny, and that's something I don't describe a lot of movies lately.
Sure.
And I was surprised by that. I thought Emma Stone was just brilliant in it. I just thought she was mesmerizing. I too was shocked at how much sex. I thought A-list actresses, that one of the perks of ascending to that A-list stratosphere is you don't take your top off anymore. Well,
yeah,
she didn't get that memo, clearly. I thought it was a feminist movie, and I thought for the first 2/3 of it, I was all on board. Like, it doesn't upset me. I mean, it's interesting. I like movies with themes and then I thought the feminism really got in your face the last third. I didn't know, it was like it didn't know where to go. And I just felt that was disappointing, but I liked it overall. Super creative, visually fascinating.
Yeah.
Like a mix of the future and the past and this new concoction. And then Willem Dafoe blowing the bubbles. What was, it was just so interesting, So everyone expected Lily Gladstone to win. I feel like there's going to be outrage for the next few weeks about that, but it's a great performance by Emma Stone.
Yeah.
It really is.
And Lily Gladstone, I remember, won the Golden Globe. I thought that Killers of the Flower Moon is works largely because of how well she is. Leo didn't even get a whiff of a nomination.
Yeah.
I don't think it's his best work. I feel like that kind of does him a disservice. People saw it and go like, yeah, Leo, we've seen you do better. I thought Lily Gladstone was great in it. If she had won, it would have been fine. But seeing this movie, Emma Stone, just what she put into it, I wasn't that upset about it. But look, I can obviously see people feeling, but Killers of the Flower Moon didn't get anything, right? I mean, I
One
think,
or none. It was either shut out or
remember
almost
it winning
shut out.
anything. Yeah. Maybe it won awards that weren't telecast, but I don't remember it getting anything last night. And but yeah, I mean, I think that those are both good performances. The moment that I'm not going to show any of, because I like to try to avoid YouTube strikes whenever possible. I thought that the Ryan Gosling It's Ken performance was a lot of fun. I thought it was great. What did you think of it?
I don't like musical numbers. I wasn't technically a huge fan of that song. Absolutely loved that segment. It was joyous. It was creative. It was bouncy. He's in the audience. It was excellent. It was perfect. Yeah. And as much as I think the musical numbers often slow the show down, and something, all right, got to check that box. That's done. It had the complete opposite effect on me. It was maybe the best part of the night. And there's something about him, like, this is a super good looking guy, but he really is able to convey a joy, an aw shucksness, because that's definitely a word that always translates well. And you mentioned Emma Stone too. I do think that she has a bit of regular person-ish to her that seems legit, a little kind of Sandra Bullock-y in a way.
Yeah, that's a good comparison, actually. Yeah. And then a movie from Barbie does win Best Song, but it's a boring Billie Eilish song, which my wife is like, oh, that song's on the radio all the time. I'm like, is it? All right, I guess that's why it won.
Yeah,
but
I didn't get that.
No, I know. But I thought that as a performance went, I thought it was a lot of fun, and they had the other Kens from the movie, including Shang-Chi from the Marvel Universe and the new Doctor from Doctor Who. So it's like guys who are kind of busy are like, oh yeah, but this will be fun. It's the Academy Awards. I'm going to be there. And look, Cami Egan wanted I'm Just Ken to win Best Song. If you're going to give it to something from Barbie, and I was about to mention this, give it up to Slash. We are at a point in our lives now where Slash plays on stage at the Academy Awards, but I mean, he played in that song. So I think it was fitting. That was, he's always got the hat. That's what I love about Slash, but yeah, I mean, none of the other songs. I mean, so there was a song that was nominated from the Hot Cheeto movie, which I honestly had not gotten around to the Hot Cheeto movie. I'd forgotten about it. I remember when it came out, there was a little bit of buzz, and I'm like, oh, it sounds interesting that somebody made that into a movie, but then not enough where I watched it. Did you see the Hot Cheeto movie? And it's called Flaming Hot. I actually just remembered what the name of it is.
I did see it. It's fine. The actress, and her name is going to escape me, who plays the main character's wife, I thought was excellent. Really good performance. Here's the thing about the Flaming Hot Cheeto movie. It's a lie. The guy who said he created the Flaming Hot Cheeto, according to an exhaustive investigative report by the LA Times, a newspaper I don't think is itching to exploit this fellow as a liar, said it didn't happen. And even the main company tried to kind of bridge the gap and say, well, we respect the work he's done for our company, but no, we can't quite confirm that. Like, they made a movie. They didn't do like a Google search on LA Times, so it's a Hulu movie. It's very watchable. It's kind of a rags to riches story. It's very sweet. Eva Longoria directed it, but how that got made when it wasn't, according to LA Times, no one's disputing their account. I'm not trying to, call a liar from out of thin air.
Expect a blockbuster lawsuit from Chester Cheetah, who's going to take claim that he actually.
No, I mean, I would love it if it was true. It's a great story, but LA Times.
Yeah, well, sometimes you find that. Yeah, some of those. Oh, that's a really great story, and then you zoom in on it, and you're like, okay, so that didn't happen. I don't want to go this many years back, but that Queen movie that is a nice whitewash of the Queen story, and just grossly inaccurate in every way possible.
Shockingly inaccurate. In a way, I remember I read the Rolling Stone. Is it true? Is it fake? This, and I was like, the whole movie. I mean, I enjoyed the movie. Rami Malek was terrific.
He
I'm
was
glad he won the
terrific, yeah.
Oscar, but they just made up everything. It was shocking.
Yeah, they weren't broken up before they played Wembley. They just had been on tour. They hadn't seen each other in like a month. And you would think that Freddie got sick because of that one boyfriend of his who caused all the trouble. I'm like, it made sense that Sacha Baron Cohen walked away from the project because he's like, oh, I thought this was going to be the real Freddie Mercury story.
Yeah.
And the real Freddie Mercury story probably wouldn't have won an Academy Award. But in any case, I thought that was good. We have to focus on, unfortunately, the last award of the evening was the one that did not go the smoothest. And I think that it's very different than what happened with Warren Beatty, but it does make us realize that maybe the legends should do, I don't know, second tier awards, because so Al Pacino comes out, and everybody loves Al Pacino. I love Al Pacino. Son of a Woman doesn't hold up for me, but other than that, I still like him. He's a phenomenal performer. He's a few years old. So let's share with people what happened. Is after a lot of ramp up. Finally opens the envelope.
And may I see Oppenheimer? Yes.
I mean, it was easier for John Travolta to say Idina Menzel than it was for him to say
May I see Oppenheimer?
And the band isn't sure yet.
Yes.
The winners aren't sure that they went. Listen to it. What happened? What happened? He says, what happened? It's like, yeah. My eyes see Oppenheimer. Yeah. Was Al supposed to mention the nominees first? I don't know, because they had shown them all throughout the evening. So maybe they were just going to come out and say, now here it is. But you're right. He maybe was supposed to set up a pre-produced video. I'm not sure. And yes, Lynn, the legends are getting old. I think we should definitely give credit to them and bring them out on stage. But I don't know. Here's the thing. John Cena would have been able to read that without any problem, So sometimes the legends, and again, like we said at the beginning of the show, not a surprise that Oppenheimer won. But the people in Oppenheimer might have been a little unsure because you and I covered the year that La La Land won. But it was announced that what was that movie that won? Moonlight. Was announced. And so everybody now is like, wait, did we really win?
Yeah.
And so then
he should have said, I see Moonlight. Ooh.
Yes, that would have helped. Ooh.
Gotcha.
But yeah. So what did you think when that happened? Were you just glad that, all right, the awards are over? Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, at that point in the evening, you just want to go. You want to. I wanted to finish my live blogging. That's how I was just exhausted. Yeah, I mean, I got the sense he was bungling something, but it's clear he had the envelope in his hands. It was clear that he read the proper response. There was no surprise there. It was the end of the coronation. So I had no problem with that.
My eyes see Oppenheimer, but. I don't know. Look, it was good. I think that I don't know how many times Kimmel's done it now. I think that they're comfortable. Yeah, I think they're comfortable having him do it.
Yeah,
and he did that one with the wrong winner announced. So I figure he'll be back. It's always on ABC, right? It's not like the Emmys where they take turns.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's an ABC. And I think his monologue on the Oscar night was mediocre, but I thought, as the show went on, he had a couple of funny quips. He kept it going. Definitely. I like an Oscar host who looks very comfortable and at ease, and he does that. And I know that seems like small praise. I don't think it is. You want to feel like you're being guided through the night, that he's got a smile. He might have a quip. So I think that's what you need in that job in general.
And Farhad picked up on something that I forgot about. So Kimmel asked for Emma Stone's envelope to be destroyed before the Best Picture was announced, because that was how that mistake happened with Moonlight, because that was the award right before it. And that one said Moonlight, so they opened the wrong envelope. That's what happened that year. But yeah, in general, I mean, and look, I understand that even on the East Coast, it started at 7:05. For some reason, they packed like 5 minutes of commercials in. And it was like, it's starting at 7. Well, 7:05. But to have it end before midnight on the East Coast has to feel good. I know you're in Mountain Time, And, for me, it was over. I think it was like a little bit, it was like 8:30-ish that it was over. So I could still put the kids to bed and didn't have to watch the rest of the awards as in years past. So in general, I had fun with it. And I was, for the most part, I was happy with the movies this year, the nominees. There's not a lot of things. There's years where you're just like, man, they really got it wrong. I feel in terms of the nominees, when you have the 10 nominees for Best Picture, look, we said it before, Barbie's a nice movie. It was not the best picture of last year.
But it's not an Oscar winning movie. It's just not.
Yeah.
It's okay. And that's okay that it's not.
Not every movie needs to be up there, Look, if we're talking next year about how Deadpool 3 won Best Picture, I didn't see it coming, all right? And I don't know, is Madam Web eligible for next year, Christian?
Absolutely. I think the campaign starts now, so it's
We'll wrap up in a moment. What movies have you seen this year that you've enjoyed? I fell asleep during the first Dune, and I know the second part is 2 hours and 46 minutes. I just haven't been able to commit myself. Well, maybe I should commit myself if I do go sit down. Say what you want about the David Lynch version. It wasn't 5 hours, Did you see Dune Part 2?
I did. It's a very, very good film.
Okay.
It's got some, it is you need to see it in an IMAX screen if possible film for sure.
Okay.
I found both halves of the Dune saga very heavy. It's hard for me to kind of really describe it. It doesn't have a lightness to it. Listen, Star Wars and Star Trek are more buoyant, more upbeat, more positive. There's a different vibe there. So I have no problem with different kinds of science fiction, but there's something that about these films that feels very heavy that makes it a little harder for me to kind of really appreciate. I liked Land of Bad, which got no attention. Russell Crowe is spectacular in it. It's a war movie. It's the action is good. The performances are interesting. And I kind of always want to recommend that one because it kind of flew under the radar.
Yeah, no, I don't. I've never even heard of that one. Yeah.
I loathed Drive Away Dolls. It's my lock for worst movie of the year, and I saw it in February. And then also, I thought Love Lies Bleeding was pretty good. It's a pulpy grindhouse movie about a female bodybuilder who falls in love with Kristen Stewart. And it's not a great movie, but it's like genre. I love a good genre film. I thought that was pretty effective.
Yeah, no, I think that genre movies work well. It didn't get any kind of a nominations, but did you see the Zac Efron Iron Claw movie from last year?
I was very disappointed by that. I thought it was very average. And a lot of people that I really trust loved it. And I don't know what I missed. It just felt very basic to me.
Yeah,
and
I thought it was good. I thought he was good in it. But yeah, I think basic is a good word. I went to see it because somebody that I talked to, my buddy Zach Schaefer, who does a podcast called $2 Late Fee, he was raving about it. I'm like, all right, I'll go see it. And I saw it and I'm like, oh, I didn't waste my time. But it was just okay,
Yeah. And that subject matter should be an absolute home run.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much drama. And I'm starting to struggle to watch Zac Efron. His face looks different. I really, as a critic, don't like to critique people in that way. Actors get old. I understand that, but I don't know. He's a young man. Something looks different these days. And it just,
yeah, I mean, obviously his body type for that role is required some kind of well, I don't know. I don't want to make any allegations, but it's very difficult to get into that kind of shape. Judging from the fact that, speaking of Deadpool 3, Hugh Jackman's got the Wolverine costume on in it, and he's not shirtless. He's like, yeah, I'll be in your movie, but I'm not getting in that kind of shape again. I'm in
That's
my
right.
50s.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, well, there'll be some good movies this year, and if we don't talk before next year at this time, we'll at least have that. But I want to give you a moment to let everybody know where they can find you, Christian.
I'm right here. My website is hollywoodintoto.com. My podcast is the Hollywood in Toto podcast. And also, listen, when we're chatting, I'm more neutral in tone, but I'm a right of center film critic, but I really don't want to chase my liberal friends away. My wife is very liberal, so maybe that's where that stems from. But I do cover things from that perspective, and I've been really all in on free speech and censorship issues, so that it's a real big focus of mine. So, which I don't think, at least I don't hope is political.
Right. No, and I
Just
think
is.
that it's good to say right of center because if you get characterized on the wrong way, then people look. You just said you saw a movie that you kind of enjoyed where a woman falls in love with Kristen Stewart. If you were a diehard conservative film reviewer, you're like, well, I couldn't even see that movie. I only saw the two faith-based films from last year, and some of those turned out very good. But that's my point. Is like you still see all these movies, and I think that it is refreshing to have that perspective. And I did message you that my buddy Andy, who does a podcast called All Apologies, appreciated the fact that you covered something we talked about on the Bladtcast last week. The comedy clubs the one comedy club up in Seattle that unbooked 4 very well-established comedians. And I even gave it to them a little bit. I'm like, look, all right, I can see that Louis J. Gomez, all right, maybe you didn't know what you were in for. Jim Florentine? I mean, he was a puppet on Crank Yankers, but it was a story that surprisingly got very limited coverage. We played a news clip on our episode when we talked about it, and it's from Seattle. It's the only thing I found.
Yeah, no, I was shocked.
And so people appreciate the fact that you keep your eyes on stories. It's like, shouldn't a lot more people be writing about this? And I think it's come up on podcasts where other comedians will talk about it, not even those 4, but it's not something that is being really talked about that much. So
I think we're becoming numb to it, which is not a good thing, by the way.
That's definitely true. And just a final thought from Kemi Eganson. She's talking about we're talking about the Iron Claw. I used to love wrestling back in the day, but watching the Von Erich family, I still need to see Iron Claw. It's a hard watch. Yeah, I think if it was an even harder watch, it might have won some awards. But I mean, it's rough, I mean, like, don't get attached to anybody, I guess that's the thing to say about it. If you know the story, I'm not really spoiling it. But Christian, I appreciate it. And you've got your book behind you. I assume it's still available, right?
It is. This is my
Virtue Bombs.
My new studio, so I'm not even sure what's behind me at the moment. But yes, Virtue Bombs, how Hollywood got woke and lost its soul.
Yeah, I'm using my wife's office. We've lived in this house for a year. I've used my studio just once, but I did actually go and get a table from IKEA, desk, like a gamer desk. So someday I'll be in there, but with virtual backgrounds, it doesn't matter. Anyway, Christian Toto, thank you as always for doing this. Thank you to everybody in the live chat. We really appreciate it. Everybody was very involved and very active. I always love that. And we'll see all of you next time on the Bladtcast. And for our audio audience, I believe you're going to get another discussion about some of these films with our buddy Will Sterling and me. But more than anything, our audio audience needs to know that our St. Patrick's Day special will be an episode where we review Leprechaun and Leprechaun in the Hood, 2 of the greatest films of the 20th and 21st century. I just realized what years they came out. Anyway, 2 of the greatest films ever. And I'm joined by Once Over with Kaylee, aka Lucy Tightbox, and Adam Hughes from Ireland. It's very on the nose, Christian. I asked the Irish guy I know if it's too late in Ireland to talk about it. But I hadn't seen those movies in a while. And whoo boy, enjoy St. Patrick's Day. Enjoy our Leprechaun reviews. And thank you again, everybody. We'll see you next time on the Bladtcast.